was no question as to whether or not we had a purpose, ever.
I was 18 in February, and the draft board said, you should go ahead and finish high school. We'll take you in then.
I played basketball. I was the leading scorer. I played football. I scored half of the touchdowns of the whole team.
5 days after I graduated from high school, I was inducted.
I still had one more year. I would have swept everybody.
Despite our youth, we felt that we were professionals, and that if Hitler continued, and if Hitler had not been challenged, that the world was in for a terrible chapter. We were inspired.
Survival was the only thing in mind. And we didn't know if we're gonna survive. How can you plan for anything when you don't know what your end is?
I knew there was danger, but that somehow, I had confidence in what's going to happen, that it's going to be okay. I will say that I really think my parents managed not to make me scared of things.
My sense of humor kept me alive. I have a marvelous sense of humor. By me, anything without a joke is nothing. Got to be a joke. And I think this helped me survive.
It was something so different than we had been used to seeing. You know, we saw a lot of dead Germans and a lot of dead Americans, but nothing like this. It's almost impossible to describe.
As he was going through Europe, he would go through these towns and he would see people and he would say, "Where are the Jews? Where are the Jews? Or where is the synagogue?" It was important to him to seek that out wherever he went, and no one had an answer.
I was alone, mind you, and I walked and I saw a giant wall right on the street. And I said, this is strange. I didn't know it was a prison camp.
Our division entered Czechoslovakia, and we went all the way to Pilsen. We had found a concentration camp called Flossenburg, and my squad was sent in to clean it up. I walked to the back door to go see the camp. My sergeant says, "No, this is one detail you don't get."
I opened the gate. It wasn't even locked. And as soon as I walked in, I heard, "Oh," but it was very muffled. And everybody was looking at me. Everybody was standing.
There was a young fella came up to me speaking perfect English. Looked like he was about 15 or 16 years old. And he said, "I see you have cross on your lapel. Are you a chaplain?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Could you think you could do us a favor?" I said, "Well, I could try." And he said, "I'd like to take you through some parts of the camp here." It turned out that this person that was talking to me was the young fella, Eliezer Wiesel, who's known better today as Elie Wiesel.
And there were some people in racks that I could see. They were laying down and all they did was got their heads up and looked and came right back down. They were dying.
As you've heard the expression, dead men walking. That's where the people who were in the concentration camp looked.
I looked at the prisoners in their striped garb. One of them moved, and I went over to him and asked him what his name was. His Nomen ist Hermann. Echet. My name is Herman too. And I opened my sea ration, made a little soup for him, and he died 2 hours later in my arms. I had tears in my eyes, and I cry every time I think about it.
I'll tell you that experience in Mauthausen melts you.
The thing that really disturbed me, I think, as much as anything else, was the mistreatment of the women. They were just absolutely treated terrible.
The mass grave was the most horrifying sight in my memory.
I think that I aged. I think that aged me.
It was unbelievable. We couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe it.
That human beings would do anything like that.
Maybe there is a savagery potential within man. But unless that is curbed, we need to be reminded of what those excesses can produce.
Anything we can do to educate others about the horrors of such a thing, so that they will do what they can to prevent that from happening. I think that would be the wish I would have for other people. It didn't take a majority of the Germans to become controlled by a dictator. You have to be very careful of people who say, let us take care of everything for you. That's a very dangerous thing.
And the death of 6 million innocent people is something that we must not repeat.
We started seeing these people coming out from the trees, from the woods, and then getting in the road.
He would see these people running in like striped pajamas.
They would absolutely stop us and kiss the front of the tank, or they'd salute us. I couldn't help but cry myself. I had never seen anything like that. I couldn't understand.
We learned later that he was a part of the group that liberated Dachau.
The main thing we try to do is the ones that were still alive is to get them out, get them someplace, and get them protected. Put clothing on them.
We got our carry-alls, those big trucks, and put people who could be carried in those things to a place where we could have a worship service. They had to be lifted on, had to be carried on, crying. I was in charge of the worship service. And we had some little prayer books, of which I had mine now, that were distributed among those that wanted them. And on one side of it was Hebrew prayers. The other side was English. They cried, they shouted. When they got through, they were just raising their hands in joy and appreciation. They didn't think they'd ever see that again. They didn't think they'd be alive.
It was like brother meets brother.
The first hour I was liberated, or the first minute, I cried and I left. I cried so much, I couldn't stop. An American captain came to me and he said to me in Yiddish, "Onish Kamoya, don't be fearful. You're a free man."
But once we were liberated, then things changed, and that's where we chose to do something. And it was because the goodness that was done to us by the people that realized what we went through and that we were survivors.
Then I found out that Max was at Flossenburg. I says, "Max, you and I have something in common." He says, "What?" I said, "Flossenburg." He opens his eyes. I used to see your dad when he was talking to school children.
Mm-hmm. He always believed that he was going to survive. He maintained his hope. He maintained his optimism. He always believed that he was going to get out of that alive.
I can't believe, after going through all the stuff he had to go through, that he could have that feeling for people and everything else. Mm-hmm. He was always up.
When he was in the camps, he would always dream about being a bird and escaping, or he would dream about being a wooden plank on one of the boxcars, because they always left the camps. He had a good imagination. He wanted to be a witness. That's one thing also. He wanted to be a witness to what was going on. So he was also being very observant.
He always said, "There's my liberator."
And I was liberated. At this time, I said to myself, I will never stop talking. If people want to listen to me or not. I have 2 people. If they listen for 5 minutes, they walk away, I accomplish 5 minutes. And I never stopped because it's very close to me. Again, these people should know about it.
To Mr. Kogut and everybody who contributed to liberate thousands of Jews from these horrible camps, I want to say thank you.
It is my honor to thank you for serving this country. It is my honor to thank you for liberating.
Because without you, thousands of Jews would have continued suffered and died. And people like my grandmother and my families like my family might have not been here today. And I, for instance, might have not been here telling my grandmother's story to you. So, on behalf of my family and myself, I want to say thank you.
I lost 37 relatives on my father's side, including my grandparents and my aunt, and 22 on my mother's side, including grandfather. This day brings me full circle because I am here to remember them and to honor you as patriots, individual liberators who came to save thousands, if not millions, since my family was exterminated. It is never too late to honor those who liberated the camps during World War II. Over 70 years later, thank you can never express the gratitude that I feel, and those of us who are 2nd generation and 3rd generation, now even seeing some 4th generation. It is my feeling that these unselfish warriors who came to change the course of history deserve thank you over and over and over again.
And if you don't know, in our Jewish religion, if you save one life, it's just as good as saving the whole world.